There's a reason wealthy people stop talking to you the same way once they make it. Not because they're suddenly evil, not because money corrupted them, but because they've learned something about human nature that most people die without ever discovering. They've learned that every conversation is a transaction, every friendship has a price tag, and everyone is keeping score, even when they swear they're not. You think you know why rich people seem cold? You don't. You think money changes people? Wrong. Money just reveals what was always there. And right now, you're broadcasting your price to everyone you meet without even knowing it. Last week, a friend asked to borrow $500. Simple request, right? But watch what happened next. The moment you hesitated, that split second of silence, everything changed. Their smile got tighter. Their voice got higher. And suddenly, you weren't friends having a conversation. You were two animals negotiating territory. That silence, that's where power lives. That hesitation, that's where the real conversation happened. And if you don't understand what actually occurred in that moment, you're walking through life deaf to the language that actually runs the world. Right now, people are asking, why do rich people seem so detached? Why does money kill relationships? How do wealthy people spot gold diggers instantly? By the end of this, you'll discover why every billionaire learns the same brutal truth about human nature. Here's the situation. The wealth gap isn't just about money, it's about psychological intelligence. If you ignore this, you'll keep wondering why successful people drift away from you. But stick around and you'll learn the hidden psychology that protects real power. You want to know the real reason wealthy people seem cold? They've discovered that warmth is a luxury they can't afford. Think about it. Every smile they give is analyzed for weakness. Every kindness is tested for exploitation. Every friendship comes with an unspoken invoice. They didn't become cold. They became realistic about what Jung called the shadow, the dark side of human nature that emerges when resources are involved. But here's what nobody tells you. This isn't about money. This is about power, and power obeys different laws than morality. You know that uncomfortable feeling when someone's being too nice to you? That instinct that says, what do they want? Wealthy people live in that feeling 24/7. And the philosopher who explained why this happens, he was so dangerous his own family disowned him for revealing these truths. Arthur Schopenhauer discovered something about human nature that destroyed his relationships, but made him psychologically invincible. He realized that humans are driven by what he called the will, a blind, irrational force that makes us constantly want more. Not just more money, more status, more validation, more power. And here's the terrifying part. We can't turn it off. Every person you meet is controlled by this force, including you, especially you. When someone approaches a wealthy person, Schopenhauer's truth becomes visible. The will shows itself. The friendly conversation, that's the will hunting for resources. The casual compliment, the will seeking advantage. The unexpected gift, the will making an investment. And after learning this, nothing looks the same. Your old self, the one who believed in pure friendships and selfless love, that person is dying right now. But wait, it gets darker. Schopenhauer revealed why wealthy people develop what looks like paranoia, but is actually hypervigilance. He called it the hedgehog's dilemma. It's winter. Hedgehogs need warmth to survive. So they huddle together. But when they get too close, their spikes hurt each other. So they pull apart. But then they're cold again. So they come back together. Too close, pain. Too far, death. This is exactly what happens with wealth and relationships. The wealthy person needs genuine connection. They're still human. But every time they let someone close, the spikes come out. Can you invest in my startup? Spike. I'm behind on rent. Spike. You won't believe the opportunity I found. Spike. So they learn to maintain perfect distance, close enough to seem human, far enough to avoid the spikes. But here's the twist nobody sees coming. The poor person has spikes too. They spike with judgment. Must be nice to have those problems. They spike with resentment. You don't deserve what you have. They spike with entitlement. You should share more. Both sides are hedgehogs, both sides are bleeding, and both sides blame the other for having spikes. You think you don't have spikes? Let me prove you wrong. Remember the last time someone more successful than you complained about their problems? That flash of anger you felt? That's your spike. That thought of, I wish I had your problems. That's your will showing its teeth. Now here's where Nietzsche enters the conversation and everything gets uncomfortable. He identified what he called slave morality versus master morality. And before you get offended, understand this. It's not about actual slaves or masters. It's about psychological positions. Slave morality says, the powerful are evil for having power. The wealthy are immoral for having wealth. Suffering makes us noble. Master morality says, power is neutral. Wealth is a tool. Nobility comes from creating value. Watch what happens to people who embrace each mindset. Those who embrace slave morality stay broke, not just financially, but psychologically. They're so busy resenting power that they never learn how power actually works. They mistake their resentment for virtue. They think their poverty makes them pure. But those who embrace master morality, they understand that power isn't evil. It's necessary. That wealth isn't immoral. It's protection. Here's the brutal truth. Every time you judge wealthy people for being cold, you're broadcasting slave morality. And everyone with real power can smell it on you like cologne. That's why opportunities pass you by. That's why successful people don't take you seriously. You're literally speaking a different language and you don't even know it. But what if I told you there's a third option? What if you could speak both languages? What if you could understand both worlds without being trapped in either? The philosopher who figured this out was so far ahead of his time, people are just now starting to understand what he meant. If you've ever felt guilty about setting boundaries with family who only call when they need money, you're already living this truth. That guilt isn't weakness. It's slave morality trying to keep you exploitable. You have the right to protect your resources from anyone who sees you as an ATM, even if they share your blood. Carl Jung called it holding the tension of opposites. You don't choose between being warm or cold. You become fluid. You don't choose between slave or master morality. You transcend both. Watch how this works in practice. When someone approaches you with hidden motives, you see it, but you don't react with paranoia or judgment. You recognize their will at work, just like yours is. You maintain boundaries without becoming bitter. You protect your resources without becoming miserly. This is what wealthy people who stay happy have figured out. They're not cold. They're calibrated. They've learned what Machiavelli knew 500 years ago. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. Let that sink in. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. This isn't deception. It's protection. It's understanding that you have the right to control how much of yourself you reveal and to whom. You have the right to protect your energy from people who only see you as a resource. You have the right to maintain distance from those who would drain you. You have the right to be selective with your warmth. Most people will never understand this, but you're different because you're still watching. You're different because you can hold complexity without needing simple answers. Here's what changes when you master this. You stop taking it personally when successful people maintain distance. You understand they're not rejecting you. They're protecting their energy. And more importantly, you start protecting yours. If this is revealing things about your relationships you never wanted to see, that like button is your first act of sovereignty. Hit it now, not for me, but as a declaration that you're done being readable to people who haven't earned that privilege. You stop bleeding your power through unnecessary warmth. You stop apologizing for having boundaries. You stop explaining yourself to people who haven't earned that level of access. If you've ever felt exhausted after helping someone who never appreciated it, you're already halfway to freedom. That exhaustion, that's your will screaming that you're giving power to people who see you as supply, not source. But here's the part that will set you free forever. Your coldness isn't coldness, it's conservation. Your distance isn't cruelty, it's wisdom. Your selectiveness isn't arrogance, it's intelligence. What you thought was your weakness, that inability to be fake friendly with everyone, that's actually your hidden power. You're already practicing what Schopenhauer called enlightened selfishness. And before you flinch at that word, selfishness, understand this. Every philosopher who truly understood power concluded the same thing. If you're not selfish with your energy, you have no energy to give when it actually matters. The airline tells you to put your own oxygen mask on first for a reason, because you can't save anyone if you're suffocating. This is why wealthy people who try to stay nice get destroyed. They hemorrhage power trying to prove they're still good people. They give to avoid guilt instead of giving from abundance. And eventually, they either become bitter or broke. But those who accept the cold psychology of wealth, they become unreadable. They master what Jung called the persona, the mask you wear in public that protects your true self. If you're realizing you've been an open book in a library of thieves, welcome to the revolution. Most people reading this will forget it by tomorrow. But you're different because something in your gut already knew these truths before I said them. Subscribe now, not because I'm telling you to, but because you finally found the language for what you've always felt. And here's the secret that changes everything. Once you become unreadable, you become powerful. Because power flows to mystery, not transparency. Think about it. The person who tells you everything about themselves in the first conversation, do you respect them, more or less? The person who maintains some distance, some mystery, aren't they the ones you find yourself thinking about? You're finally going to be unreadable. Not because you're becoming fake, but because you're becoming sovereign. You're taking control of your own narrative. You're deciding who gets access to which parts of you. If you've ever felt like you give too much of yourself away, you're already halfway there. That exhaustion you feel after social interactions, that's because you've been an open book in a room full of critics. So here's your choice. You can stay enslaved morality, resenting those with power while wondering why you never get any. You can keep being an open book, letting everyone read you, use you, and discard you. Or you can accept the cold psychology of wealth. Not because you're becoming evil, but because you're becoming real. Not because you hate people, but because you finally understand them. The silence that protects real power isn't empty, it's full of understanding, full of boundaries, full of self-respect. Most people will never see this video. Most people will never understand these truths. They'll keep wondering why successful people seem distant, why money changes people, why power seems so cold. But you're different. You made it this far because some part of you already knew these truths. Some part of you was already tired of pretending that everyone has pure intentions. Some part of you was already ready to stop apologizing for protecting yourself. If you're choosing freedom over approval, power over popularity, reality over illusion, then you belong here. This isn't just a channel, it's a revolution in how you understand human nature. Subscribe not because I told you to, but because you finally found people who speak your real language. The language of power, the language of truth, the language that most people are too afraid to learn. Comment below with the moment you realized someone was only nice to you because they wanted something. Share that awakening moment when the mask fell off. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's not a curse. It's your liberation. The price of power isn't your soul. It's your illusions. And if you're ready to pay that price, welcome to the other side. Your old self is dead. And the person you're becoming, they're finally going to be untouchable.